Hello and a warm welcome to the latest episode of the Scottish Roadscast, a podcast series from the Scottish Roads Archive that delves into the history of Scotland's roads, bridges and motorways. I'm Stuart Baird and I'm joined by my regular co-host John Hassel. Good to see you, John. How have you been?
I'm really well, Stuart. It's good to see you as well. I'm pretty good.
Yeah, good to see you. Also joining us for this episode is our resident expert and archive road history guru, Duncan McKnight. Great to see you again, Duncan. How are you doing?
That's me. I'm good. How's things going? How's things? How are we?
Yeah, not too bad. Now, what interesting topic have you got lined up for us this month?
Oh, well, all the topics are interesting, but I thought this time we'd jump back to a road we all love, the A9. And you're probably thinking, wait a minute, you've spoken about the A9 already, but no, we're going to be talking about the A9 south of Perth and what John taglines as the forgotten part of the A9. Is that right, John?
Yeah, because when you say A9, I'm thinking Perth to Inverness. I think that's what 99% of people think. So when you hit out with the A9 again, this is interesting because it's the forgotten part. Yeah.
The forgotten part of the A9. But if it wasn't there, things would be very difficult. So it's a very important part of the A9. Yes.
Okay, right. Well, Good. I'm sure it will be interesting. But before I let you get into that, Duncan, should you say that from this month we are introducing a new From the Archive feature where we'll be showcasing interesting new items from the Scottish Roads Archives collection. Yes. Now, long-time listeners will remember a similar feature way back in 2018 and 19 when we used to do something similar. Now, we'll be giving you a wee bit more information on this later when Duncan will be talking a bit about a document that he finds to be particularly interesting. You will be able to view the documents and the items that we're discussing in the podcast by visiting our website, and the particular address is scottishroadsarchive.org/roadscast. And if you go in there and you select the episode that you're listening to at the minute, which in this case is A9, you'll be able to select the item to view on screen, and that will let you follow along as we discuss that. And again, just before we kick things off properly, I should also mention that we are, with the very kind support of the Chartered Institution of Highways and Transportation of Scotland, recording this podcast with shiny new podcast equipment.
Finally, after many years. Yes, thank you.
So I hope all three of us are sounding nice and clear from this episode onwards. Fingers crossed. We'll know when the recording's done.
We'll leave that up to the producer and editor.
Oh, I wonder who that could be. We'll see how we go. But anyway, Duncan, over to you. So A9, Edinburgh to Perth.
Over to me.
Take it away.
Edinburgh to Perth. I remember I put this, the podcast schedule up and people said, Edinburgh to Perth? What's going on? The A9 doesn't start in Edinburgh. Well, it used to, but we'll go into that. So we're talking about the A9 south of Perth, and it basically joins up the top of the M9 to the top of the M90 and the A90 to Aberdeen, and it's about 30 miles of dual carriageway. The old road, the former historical route, what was north of Stirling, was important. Parts of it had Roman origin, military origin, and it was seen as the main way north from Glasgow and the west. So if you were down in England and you were going up to the Highlands, you'd probably come up the A9 and then follow on up north of Perth. The east had the Forfar Bridge and the A90, west had the A9, and then if you go very west, it's 82. And it was numbered as the A9 in 1922. Just a wee bit about the numbering. I know that the original ideas for the A9 was to start in Edinburgh and very quickly turn north towards Queensferry to cross the Firth of Forth via the ferry and run up to Perth and then run up to Inverness. But because of the ferry, and the ferry wasn't 24 hours back then, they decided, okay, we'll make the A9 go via Stirling to link up all the historical areas, so it's not hindered by the ferry. North of Stirling, it was improved sporadically to dual carriageway, and it's got a real mixture of kind of design standards. It's wider in some bits, narrow in some bits. It's quite interesting, actually. Now, the first thing I want to do is discuss, why is this not the M9 all the way to Perth? Because I know that when we post photographs of this road up to Stirling to Perth, everyone goes, why isn't this just the M9 all the way up? And I've done a bit of digging. I don't know if Stuart can maybe help me with this, but I think it's down to the standards at the time for building roads. So the M9 bypassed 30 miles of the A9 because they couldn't improve the old route south of Stirling online. So they said, well, we'll build it offline and make it a motorway. But north of Stirling, it becomes more rural. It becomes more open. So it was much easier to improve online than it was to just build a brand new road just for the sake of it. I think that's the reason. That kind of follows into things like the A74, the A90, the A77. Am I on the right lines here, Stuart, or am I way off? Sounds about right.
No. That's a fair point. Obviously, the earlier design schemes did have different standards. It was really only once we got into the 60s proper that dual carriageways in the form that we know them today really started to come along, what we would describe as all-purpose roads, expressway type roads. Anything designed before that really is kind of what we would class as being substandard. And you use the A74, the earlier sections, as a good example there of what that type of road looked like.
Mm-hmm. So gaps in the middle, smaller, no hard strips or anything. Some interesting alignment. That's what was seen as the standard for all-purpose roads. But obviously now the standards are much, much higher for dual carriageways, particularly nowadays. The Layout of Roads in Rural Areas, that's the book I was thinking about. That's the book that they worked on. That was basically evolved into what was known as the DMRB for setting out the standards for roads. So the commitment was made in 1984 to fully dual the A9 between Perth and Stirling, but it was already kind of half dualed already, and it was seen as this very important corridor up to Perth. I did mention the M9. We are going to be having a podcast later on the M9, and our resident Mr. Hassel will be leading that
That's
one.
right.
How's it coming along, John?
It's coming along fine. Don't say it's all me though, because you have helped with this. I originally done a podcast on the M9, but you have enhanced it and said, "There you go, John. Take all the credit." We'll not talk about it too much.
No, but that is coming soon.
Cool.
So we're going to be talking about the road north of Stirling, but it's good to mention the historical route, as I've spoken about before. So originally the A9 started way down at Maybury Junction, just along from Gogar. You know where that is? Just along from the bypass.
Oh yeah, I know Maybury. Yeah, I went through it quite recently. Yeah,
I know. I'm amazed you got out of the traffic. The traffic down there could be terrifying.
I'm here to tell the story.
Here to tell
and
the
it was
story,
during the Royal Highland show as well. So,
oh, brilliant. So I'm just quickly getting up Google so I don't make any mistakes. It's good we can do these podcasts remotely and we can get Google up and have all the data we need in front of us. But anyway, so it ran along, and it's known as the Turnhouse Road, this original section. And I was along there not too long ago, and my goodness, the house building along there is mad. Like, I remember going along there ages ago, and it was this rural road that went to the end of the runway. Now it's full of houses. It's just the growth of Edinburgh, the suburbs. Now it cuts off at the end of the runway because they built the runway across the rest of the road, but it reappears and it runs through Kirkliston, Winchborough, Linlithgow, all the way up to Falkirk, over the M876 at Larbert, up to Bannockburn, Stirling, before coming onto the trunk A9. Now the section from Edinburgh Airport up to Falkirk, that was basically renumbered as, what is it? It's B80, the A803, and numerous other roads, as was the policy at that time. So when they built the M9, the A9 was downgraded as something else. But they did extend the A9 in the 1990s round the top of Falkirk, on the Falkirk Distributor Road, these big wide roads that run around Falkirk near the Kelpies. You've probably seen that before, rejoining the historical route. It crossed the M876 at Larbert and it enters Stirling. And there is the Stirling Inner Relief Road. That's one of the major improvements down here, is when it burrows under the railway station in a big underpass. It's a fantastic little gem. John, have you been through this underpass yet?
I knew this would come up because
I'm not letting this go. I'm not letting it go. You've not been through the Stirling underpass.
I haven't. Let the world hear I've not been through the Stirling underpass, but no.
Next road trip.
I think that's disgusting, personally. That
I think I should just leave and go and put my feet up downstairs and let you guys be at it.
Someone with an interest in roads history in Scotland hasn't used the longest cut and cover underpass in Scotland. It's just shameful.
We all know there's one real cut and cover.
Are you a fan?
I'm a fan. I used to study in Stirling.
Yes.
I was at Stirling Uni for years and used the underpass every day.
Yeah.
Fond memories. Fond memories.
One of the people that drop down to third gear and rev it through the underpass.
Yes. Stuart had a totally tricked out Honda Civic, and he'd done that with his big exhaust pipes.
Really good. Yeah.
Oh, terrible. Anyway, so we come out of Stirling, we run up to Bridge of Allen, and Bridge of Allen on the A9 is actually the last settlement for about 200 miles that the A9 actually goes through. The next one is Golspie, all the way up north of Dornoch Bridge. But the first section of the modern trunk A9 to be constructed was the Dunblane Bypass. So the Dunblane Bypass was opened on the 10th of December 1990, and it was opened by Michael Forsyth, MP. Main design was
that's quite recent.
Yeah.
You know, and I think of that being like, oh, this is clearly a 70s road.
Yeah.
You know? Okay.
Yeah, quite recently being 35 years ago, John.
Well, recent enough, I know.
Before Duncan even joined us on this earth. You know?
No, it was ages. It was a while after that, yeah.
It was. Oh, well, the world got better. No.
But yeah, so there's kind of the history of this is the M9 up to the Keir roundabout was constructed in 1971, and they duelled a bit of the A9 into Dunblane in the 1960s and 1970s. But as you know, the dual carriageway cuts out in the middle of Dunblane, and it stayed like this for some time now. It became a fairly notorious bottleneck either side because the dual carriageway squeezes down to single lane as everyone trundles through Dunblane. And even when the dual carriageway started again, it was still a challenge before the dual carriageway opened. So main design of this was our good old friends Babty Shaw and Morton, and works were undertaken by old favourites Balfour Beatty. And I'd like to say thanks to a chap called Ian Murray from Bear Scotland for a copy of the opening booklet. More on that later on. Yeah, so that's Dunblane. So that's the first section of dual carriageway.
Can I point something out, Duncan?
Yes.
Well, I hope I'm not going to ruin this later, but you know there's a little bit of abandoned old A9 there at Dunblane.
At the top end. Yeah, there is a top end.
So this is the north junction of it, and there's like, you can see where the A9 obviously terminated there, and it's since obviously been abandoned, but you can clearly see on satellite imagery the old carriageways. I've never walked about it. Perhaps that's a trip at some point.
Yeah, but, I've been along it. It doesn't go anywhere. I stopped and went, this is going to be something really exciting, but no, it's not. It's a bit of a letdown, but you can see it as you drive past. Interestingly, a little feature that I think a lot of people know about, but I thought I'd mention it here, is at the Keir roundabout, as you're going north, on the eastern side of the A9, there's a mobile phone mast that's disguised as a tree. Do people know about this? This funny little thing.
I didn't know about the one at Keir, but I know the one between Scotstoun and South Queensferry on the A90 special road.
The one at Keir's been there for at least 20 odd years at Keir roundabout.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know about the one at Keir. That definitely came first, but no, there is one just south of the Queensferry crossing. You can see it.
Well, I don't know about that one. I'll have to keep my eyes
cool.
peeled for that.
People love hearing about that sort of thing, by the way. Like, so you tell them that, it like blows their mind. That's great.
Yeah. Hopefully people now will drive past and go, I heard this on the Scottish Roads podcast about this tree. Hopefully we're having a positive influence. Yeah. So going north from there, from 1990, it then jumps to a section completed in October 1968, which is Dunblane, basically known as Dunblane to Green Loaning. This is the long, straight section with a few kinks in it, following the old Roman road towards Crieff. And this was widened in, I said, the 1960s to improve overtaking, because it was a straight line, but it did undulate quite a lot. So Perthing and Ross County Council did the design for that. And this was built by, again, another favourite, Tarmac Construction.
Good old Tarmac. It does feel like, it's funny, the difference in age is so funny there, because it does feel very old when you drive. It's just like, well, they had a road here and they clearly just slapped down another carriageway and that'll do. And then when you get to that section Dunblane, which is a bit more modern, you feel, this is, this is cut from a different cloth. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. We feature roadside services are at Balhaldy. I think they're quite historical. They've been there a while, and there is the Little Chef sign still visible as you drive past. There was a Little Chef there, and you can still see the sign.
Little Chef.
Yeah.
It reminds me of childhood road trips.
Oh, yes. Pancakes and syrup. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
I know. Going along from there is the short bypass of Green Loaning, which was completed in January 1969. This was just a small section, but it did include the Fork Junction at Green Loaning. It ran just to the south of that, yeah. Design again was by Perth and Ross County Council, and this was built by John McAdam and Sons Limited. Not one I've heard of before, probably a local contractor. But they built that big flyover over the road there. And then from 1969, we then jump into the future to a section completed in 1992. So it's what I was saying about a real mix of design, which is the green loaning to Blackford section of the road. This was what I've seen on social media and picked up with our researchers. This was improved in around 1960 to a 3-lane road with multiple junctions for all the farms along there. And because it was improved, I assume in 1960, they said, well, we'll leave it for later on. But it was quite a notorious section, this, for accidents and for the slowness of the road. So the main design on this section was Jameson Mackay and partners, and RJ McLeod constructed it. Work began in January 1992, and it was opened on the 14th of December 1992 by Nicholas Fairburn MP. And it was the last section to be dualled south of Perth.
They must have been some really prevalent gaps in the dual carriageway prior to that 1992 opening. You can imagine either side being continuously dualled, and then you come to that bottleneck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was, I think, quite notorious. Now, I want to have a wee discussion about, do we know why this took so blooming long to get finished? Because obviously the priority was to improve the road from Glasgow all the way up to Perth, but here it was going down to single carriageway in 1991, 1992. Why do you have any gaps to fill?
I have a
here?
flippant answer, which was we didn't seem to build many roads in the 80s, it seems, or with the roads we did build in the 80s were much larger projects that were singled down to certain areas like the 74 or the M25.
Yeah, or was it a case of that particular section had only recently been upgraded in the 50s or 60s and was seen as the best piece in the puzzle, and therefore that's kind of like what happened with A8 Bailston to Newhouse, where the A8 had been done in 1960 just before they decided to do it all as motorway, or that sort of thing. Don't know, Duncan. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll keep looking into it. Yeah. So going along from there, from 1992, we jump back to a section built in 1980, and this is Blackford Bypass, one of the first bypasses to be constructed along this corridor, primarily due to the level crossing that sits in the middle of Blackford, and it must have been a bit of a challenge at times with the trunk road going over, and there's a level crossing and there's trains going past. This was opened southbound on the 19th of October 1980 and northbound on the 7th of December 1980, which completed the scheme. Design on this one was the Tayside Regional Council, so we've changed to the regional councils now, and it's been built by Miller Construction. Miller Construction built this section. There was a public inquiry for this section. If you noticed at Blackford, there is one large junction at the south end for access, but none at the top end. It's just a slip. And this kind of worried the locals to think, oh, is this going to kill all the services in the middle of town, which is quite a familiar argument that we've heard of when a lot of bypasses were constructed, is, are we going to lose all our services? And it's, adopt, adapt, and improve to what was built. So that's Blackford. Has anyone actually been into Blackford and been along the old road along here? No, just
Blackford is like Wetherby. It's something you see on signs. You don't go into it. I've always found there's these places on the road like that, and Blackford's definitely one of them. You always go past it. If somebody says, "Well, Blackford," I know exactly where you are, but I've never been into it.
I've done all of them a couple of times. Auchterarder, Glen Eagles, Blackford.
Lovely.
They are interesting. They're good for local services. If that's what you're looking for, if you're on a leisurely drive, although as John says, if you're just looking to get quickly from A to B, you're not going to stop. You're just going to keep going, aren't you?
Go up to Perth, yeah.
I generally find, just talk about the route holistically, it does have quite good provision of services and places to stop directly off the road. Yeah,
there's a couple of roadside services along here, like the one at Balhaldy, and there's a one further up at Glen Eagles, the fuel station there as well. Yeah,
I used it very recently.
Yeah, they must also be very, very thirsty in Blackford, because that's where the Highland Spring water plant is. A nice little landmark along the side of the road as you're going north. The big green building, that's where water comes from.
Is that what that is? No, that is cool. I did not know that. Right.
There you go. Yeah. So going north from there, the next section's there's two little sections joined together. So the first bit is the Loaning Head diversion, completed around, I think, November 1975. Designed by Perth and Kinross Joint County Council and built by White Construction Limited. And this is the junction with the A823 that goes over the A9 just along here. And it's got that rather sharp bend as it goes to the north there. And then this joins onto a little section, the Gleneagle Station Crossroads, which was literally 0.7 of a mile of dualling. And it was primarily just to improve the access into Gleneagle Station. Built by Norwest Construction Limited, opened around January 1972. This Gleneagle Station Crossroads has been closed because they built another little road off of the Loaning Head Junction to the station works. That was done around 2012. I think INH Brown, I think, was involved in that one. Or am I getting mixed up here? But there was a bit of work around that time, so they shut the access in the middle.
I was speaking to somebody about this section the other day, Duncan, and I'm convinced they had a different speed limit here at Auchterarder.
Did they?
But I think this was a case of Mandela effect, where I've sort of remembered something that's ever happened, and I'm pretty sure it was me confusing it with the fact they had a speed camera there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I know this section near Auchterarder has a couple of junctions, and I think it's lit as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of further up at Auchterarder, it's lit, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of lighting along here, but probably due to the junction. But it's much, much better now. Much, much better now.
Glad to hear it.
So this feeds on now to quite a long section called the Auchterarder Bypass. This was opened on the 21st of October 1983 by Michael Ancram. He was 15 minutes late to the opening due to traffic in Auchterarder that held him up.
How on brand.
I know, but he did make it. He did make it in time. Design of this was Tayside Regional Council, and this was built by, again, our old favourites, Balfour Beatty. And this had been on the cards for a while. I think the proposals were a single carriageway bypass, but they later upped it a bit to a dual carriageway. It's a section that functions very well because it's very long and there's no junctions on it, just the accesses. So it's quite fast moving, this bit. And there is some old surfacing heading north, old HRA that John's not resurfaced yet. Yeah, original HRA surfacing. John's not surfaced yet. Please keep it there for...
You think of me so highly within my maintenance organisation. I make such decisions, yes.
Yes, I can imagine them coming in. We've got to resurface that. And John going, no, that's historical. Leave it alone.
I'd be thrown out for that, but yes.
I know. But yeah, so not much going on in this section either. Pretty featureless. But then this leads on to the next section called Darragh to Burnside, or the Kearney Bray section. This is the bit that goes up the hill. This is opened October 1986. This is the 2-mile hill climb up the Kearney Bray. Yeah. And it features a large bridge over the River Erne. In terms of this section of the road, it's the biggest in terms of engineering construction because there was a lot of blasting. There was a lot of big retaining walls built, and you've got the big bridge over the River Erne. Main design was favourites again, Babdishaw Morton, and built by Balfour Beatty, again working together to build the dual carriageway. And we have the construction photographs of this, and they are lovely. We've got about 460 something with the Lane collection that we've been working through, and they're lovely. It's really nice to see. And this then leads on to the last charge to Broxton Roundabout, which is Burnside to Broxton. Completed around July 1983. Main design again was by Babdishaw Morton. It was built by old favourites tractor shovels. Good at digging out.
Shovels.
Yep, digging out stuff. There's a huge rock cutting along there, which they had a big hand at blasting out. And this leads on to the Broxton Roundabout, constructed in 1978 with the M90. So it literally just feeds into Broxton, and that's the top of the A9 along here.
So I just got a question about Broxton and its construction.
Okay.
What was you covered the M90, Phil? You're quite an expert on these things, but was Broxton already there before the A9 was plugged in, so to speak? Broxton was already there. The A9 existed there already, but as a single carriageway either side. Right. Okay. Broxton was constructed with the top of the M90, basically. Right, I see. And when they added the other carriageway, it probably was only in a minor way modified.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I think it's just a big oval, and they've just kind of slotted onto either side of it. It is a bit notorious as a roundabout. It is quite congested and quite slow, particularly on the M90 approach. The A9 does all right, but Friday's always bad. But Friday's bad everywhere. But
yeah, from M90. Yeah, I've seen it. It's also quite a quick roundabout.
Yeah, it doesn't take too long.
It doesn't have lights on it, and it can be I just know it from those big signs saying HGV.
Lorries tipping over. It's quite dramatic, that. I quite like that. Just quickly rounding off here, maybe some discussion points. The average speed cameras were put along here in 2014, basically to slow everyone down, because I think this was a bit of a racetrack. But yeah, it's as John said, it's fairly trouble-free. It functions very well, and it's a bit of the A9 that I quite like, because you can just chuck the cruise control on and just cruise along. It's quite nice.
Nice part of the country as well, from a scenic point of view, particularly coming down to Kearney Braes, where you've got the river, is it the River Erne on the left as you come down the hill? The River Erne on the left-hand side, yeah. And you've got the lovely old concrete arch bridge on the other side of the river for the old road. That's lovely. Yeah. That's really nice.
Stunning when you come down there. And I'm sure if any electric car owners or hybrid car owners are listening, they probably know that they can recharge their batteries quite a bit coming down that hill.
Can you?
Yeah.
Is this true? Is this myth busting here?
Well, because I don't want to talk about electric cars too much, but they regeneratively brake. So it's almost like a dynamo that kicks in when you're braking or you take your foot off the gas. So when you're going down with the gas, take your foot off the accelerator, you're obviously clawing some of that energy back when you go down that hill. So I work with somebody in that area who has an electric vehicle for work, and she's like, right, this is good, this bit. You can get about 5 miles back.
Wow.
So yeah, it is. It's interesting.
Science with Dr. John Hassel there. Thank you very much for
Indeed.
Just looking to the future a little bit here. We are, of course, duelling the A9 north of Perth. Are there any plans for something down here? Nothing I've seen so far. But I don't know if there was talk of Broxton. Was there any talk of closing all the junctions and providing grade separation all the way down?
Well, there has been duelling. Of the A9, but not as you know it. The A9 in Falkirk has been getting duelled.
Oh, yeah. I saw that and went, wait a minute, what's that? Oh, yeah,
that's the A9 duelling no one talks about.
That's the A9 duelling down at the bottom end, yeah. That's at the M9 junction, isn't it?
It's not far from, I think, they call it Cadges Bray or something, that junction's called.
Yeah, Junction 5,
which is by the stadium. So they're doing a load of works there. So I know the A9's been getting some improvements. This is the non-trunk A9, as it's sometimes referred to.
Falkirk City Deal funded scheme, Scottish Government, UK Government, Falkirk Council, consultant WSP, contractor Balfour Beatty.
Very good. Very good.
Put that in your book.
Yep.
I'll write that down. So are they duelling all the way in, or are they just duelling a little bit, or is it just housing?
Into the town centre, into the main roundabout. It's a very busy section of road heading for the M9, particularly on match days. There's a long-held plans to duel that section of the A9. There were other plans for pedestrian footbridges and things that got scaled back on cost grounds, but the dueling went ahead, which I think was sensible, given it's probably the most...
Goes past the stadium and all sorts of things. It's very busy. So the road coming from Cadges Bray is the 904, and then it meets the A9. But the 904, as Stuart says, that's the one that links to the motorway. That's being duelled. So I've not been there for a year or two.
It's coming along.
Been there in a while.
They are building, if I recall, it's a new carriageway on the western side of the existing road, I think is the bit that I saw.
Okay.
So it was that was February, March time. I think I was last up there, and it was coming along.
Yeah,
excellent.
So all these schemes. I think we've mentioned that in some of our podcasts where we talk about the minor schemes. I think we have mentioned that one before, but we'll have to pull up Google Earth and get a look at that one. You mentioned about other improvements, on the main sections. I know. I hope I'm okay to say this, but I do believe it was part of an original strategy for improving the A9 to look at potentially things like Kia Roundabout Broxton.
Yes.
There's environment as well, but that's not in the scope of our discussion. But there's a lot of other work to be done first, I suppose. So yes, I believe it might have been as part of the strategic project review or something.
It was the original one. I don't think those particular schemes feature an STPR2, but they certainly did in the first one. But like you say, there's a hell of a lot of other work to be done first, I guess, before they start thinking about that.
What's everyone's opinions here on Kia Roundabout as its function? Nightmare?
But E9 South approach is a pain in the backside.
Yeah.
It's southbound. M9 North is fine. All the other arms I think are fine, but it's just A9 South approach. It's just busy. Remember it was built nearly 60 years ago now, or 50 years ago now. So it's
the question is, I mean, let's obviously the thing we all want, flyover, but what would be a kind of concession that's not a flyover that you set? Maybe some sort of signalization, maybe a hamburger, maybe a remodeling of the roundabout or something, or wider on approach.
I don't think any of that's necessarily required, John. I think some basic signalisation could be enough there. It's very quiet. Away from the peak. Away from the peaks in the southbound direction, it's absolutely fine. It needs minimal intervention, I would suggest. So maybe some part-time signals. Duncan, you love part-time signals.
Love part-time
I'm a fan
signals.
of part-time signals, yes.
I think you can get away with part-time signals where you don't have things like NMUs.
Pedestrian crossings and things.
Although I think that roundabout is not motorway and you can cross it in foot in some areas, so part-time signals sometimes not compatible with that. But anyway, so something as Stuart says is probably minor intervention. Where's all the traffic going though? Is most of it passing through it?
Is most of it just going straight across?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
M9 to A9 and vice versa. Some peeling off to go into Stirling via Bridge of Allen. Some turning right and using that road down towards Doon as a quick route rather than going down to the junction 10 and taking the A84. You can cut the corner by going that way if you're heading to Callander or whatever if you want to go that way. So, there's options. But not as busy, I would say, as north to south movements.
No. Yeah. Interesting.
But there you go.
I don't know what the things I can say too much about the route. I mean, the obvious thing is the gaps in the central res in some areas. Some of them being closed up. There are obvious benefits.
My always thoughts about these is when you've got a place like Auchterarder or wherever, or like a big place where you've got a lot of traffic, a gap's probably riskier. But when you've got a farm that's used by Farmer John going in and out once or twice a day, and that's the only person that uses it, it's probably perfectly fine.
Yeah,
it just depends who's using it and what it's there for. You can't
put a flyover in for everything, but we do have these compact grade separated junctions now for smaller things that seem to be, we see them a lot on roads. Maybe some of these things might be suitable for some of the quieter little junctions, or a full-on flyover for something at Auchterarder maybe at some point. We're never going to say no to a safety improvement or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
anything else? Because I would like to jump onto the From the Archive feature.
I'd love that as well.
Duncan, I think that's fantastic.
I'm going to jump
another
on
interesting one with lots of new facts and figures, as always.
Thank you.
So, as you say, let's move on to your From the Archive feature. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, anyone who wants to look at the document that Duncan is talking about can find it on our website, scottishroadsarchive.org/Roadscast. And click on the episode number and you will get the document. So, Duncan, what have you chosen to discuss this month?
So we've got it related to the podcast, we've discussed it, and we have got the opening sort of booklet of the Dunblane Bypass, and it was a bit of an opening pack, this. So we have a nice scan of it, thanks to Autodocs, who have scanned all our documents. So I'm able to look at this document that's currently tucked away somewhere else and look at it from the comfort of my own chair. How fantastic. So the first bit we've got is the main booklet. So it starts A9 Trunk Road, Dunblane Bypass. A couple of nice photographs of the road just as it's brand new, sweeping north. And I always like these nice, clean, tidy roads. It's brand new and it looks lovely. And then inside we've got the large crane, a nice picture of the big large crane, AK912 crane lifting girders for Auchinleigh Railway Bridge. This was an interesting one. I was speaking to an engineer a little while ago who'd actually worked for Baptiste and was on this scheme about having to get this crane assembled, which was quite a challenge because it was one of the biggest cranes, I think, in the UK at that time, or in Scotland. And they got it assembled and they were ready to lift in these girders over the railway line, which they managed to squeeze in a closure of. But the chap operating the crane said, "Oh, no, sorry, it's too windy. This was 2:00 in the morning. And at 3:30, they said, they thought, "Oh no, that's it. We're going to have to reschedule the whole thing." And the guy said, "Oh no, we can do it now." So they threw these girders over the railway line very, very quickly, and managed to reopen the railway with about 10, 15 minutes to spare with this big crane. So that's my main memory of that.
Avoided any fines or bad press from that.
Jeez.
Any drama. I'll do a wee bit of reading out of the booklet here, because there's a nice bit of text that gives us a bit of history. So in 1977, the Scottish Development Department, as the government department responsible for the A9 trunk road, commissioned a feasibility study to determine the need for a bypass of Dunblane. In all, some 17 routes were examined. The Scottish office first made public their proposals for Dunblane Bypass in February 1986, when they published draft orders and mounted a public exhibition in Dunblane. After further consultations and assessment, revised proposals were published in April 1987 and confirmed in August 1988, and work began in late 1988. So it's got other bits and pieces. It's got a nice picture of the Allan Water Bridge. Is one of the main structures that was constructed. It's a large Corton weathering steel bridge. Same with the railway bridge. It's right next to the railway bridge, actually. It's quite funny. You've got the railway bridge, and then a sort of a box holding up a big lump of earth supporting the dual carriageway, and then it goes onto the river bridge. It's a nice little compact structure. Cost £12 million, opened by Michael Forsyth. So there you go. And then it goes on a little bit for some of the more Babty, the publicity for Babty Sean Morton embedded in here as well, which is always nice to see, because we've known Babties for ages, doing research with the roads. They've been involved in quite a lot.
Big in the A9 sort of things in general, aren't they? It's funny you mentioned about weathering steel structure. It's another early weathering steel structure.
It was in use from the late 70s, but I think they used it here. They used it on the A75 when they were doing that, and I think the M74, they chucked a couple up along there.
Hugely in vogue then, though. I mean, it was probably still seen as quite novel. It was still
quite experimental, but they thought they will give it a try, and
now we do it everywhere. Yeah.
And then the last wee bit here, it's got the programme for the opening ceremony on the 10th of December 1990. So coach arrives at the Stackus Dunblane Hydro Hotel. Pipers play as the guests assemble. Car parking reserved. Morning coffee will be served and brochures handed out. And then it's got the introducing all the guests. And then they go head off, cut the tape, and then they're away for their afternoon lunch. So yeah. The olden days of booklets, we like this sort of stuff. We do indeed.
Yes, but with luncheon, as it's often referred to.
The luncheon ticket with the guest of honour,
Yeah, very cool.
But yeah, again, if you want to read more of this, head over to the website and have a look at it. It's a good little thing.
Yeah, a wee PDF copy there for downloading.
You really sold that, Duncan. That's good. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And that's all from me, folks. That's the end of the script.
Yeah, that's been a good episode, Duncan, and interesting document there. We'll certainly be picking up some more interesting ones in the months ahead. The archive obviously has lots of interesting material in it, so it does make sense to speak about some of these things when they're not necessarily online already, just to give people a bit of an insight into some of the stuff that we have. So we have a lot of that. Duncan, in terms of episodes that are coming up, Roadscast-wise, you've got another couple that are coming down the track. What have you got planned?
Yeah, we've got a few. I know some people are saying, well, what about the A9 north of Inverness? We've not spoken about that. Don't worry. It's in the pipeline. It's on the list. It's in the schedule. Don't worry.
You, Duncan, you have spoken about that before, but it has been a while ago.
It's a while ago, so it's good to get it revisited with some of the new information. But what's coming the rest of the year? We've got the A87 to Skye. That's coming soon. That's a very nice podcast.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah. We mentioned this earlier, we've got the M9, a revisit of the M9 with all the new information we've got of that. Yes, that's John's one. We've then got Skybridge coming up. And then I think, Stuart, you're going to take us along the A8 between Edinburgh and Greenock. You're going to take us all the way along there. And then we've got Christmas, which we'll figure that out closer to the time.
Nearer the time. Well, listen, lots to keep people interested in the months ahead then. Hope people stay with us. We'll wrap this episode up there. Thanks to everyone for listening. Huge thanks to our sponsors, Eastford Excavations and HBS Scotland. Without them, this podcast would not be happening. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
John, good to see you. Duncan, good to see you. And we will see you all soon, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.